Hi, I'm Erik Jones, and you're listening to Verse by Verse. What do angels do? There are a lot of ideas out there about angels. In popular culture, one of the popular ideas is that of guardian angels. The idea is that each person, especially children, is assigned an individual guardian angel. But though the Bible does speak of angels protecting and guarding human beings, the idea of a specific angel being assigned to each person is not found in the Bible. This is one of many myths about angels that are found in our world. The problem with many people's conception of angels today is that many of the ideas come from literature, legends, or even TV shows and movies. But though there are many myths about angels, we have to understand that angels are by no means a myth. The Bible has much to say about angels. Scripture reveals that angels are very real and do have powerful roles assigned to them by God Himself. Angels, in fact, are found in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. The first mention of an angel is in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, and the last mention of an angel is found in the last chapter of the Bible, Revelation chapter 22. Now, this episode cannot cover all the details revealed in Scripture about angels. If you really want to dive into this topic, I recommend you download our free booklet on this subject, The Spirit World, Facts and Fallacies. This booklet is a fascinating exploration of the angelic realm, and I guarantee that if you read it, you will learn new things you never considered before. You can find a link to that booklet in the show notes. But for the remainder of this episode, we're just going to cover one part of Scripture that reveals an important fact about why God created angels. That verse is found in Hebrews 1:14. But before we read that verse, let's consider the context. The topic of this chapter is actually not angels, but about Jesus Christ. The author's purpose is to show Christ's present role and how, after his resurrection from the dead, he was glorified to a level far above the angelic realm. The author's aim in this chapter wasn't to diminish the righteous angels, but to show how Christ far surpasses and outranks these beings, who themselves are incredibly powerful when considered from a human perspective. In verses 3 through 4, the author writes how Christ, after his resurrection, sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become so much better than the angels, as he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. So even though they are immensely powerful and radiant beings, Christ far exceeds them in authority, power, and position, because he is God, and they are not. In verse 5, the author demonstrates how Christ is now God's firstborn son, a member of the very God family. Though angels are God's sons by creation, they are never considered his literal children in his family. In the next few verses, the author builds on this point by emphasizing Christ's authority and divinity. In verse 9, Christ is referred to as God. He quotes a scripture, "Your throne, O God," referring to Christ, "is forever and ever." Angels are not divine and are not destined to rule forever. Then, verses 10 through 11 go on to show that Christ was the Creator, who created the earth and the heavens. In fact, he also created the angels. Angels, though powerful, do not have the ability to create life or procreate. Then, moving on to verse 13, he provides one final contrast between Christ and the angels. But to which of the angels has he ever said, "Sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool"? No angel has ever or will ever sit at God's right hand and possess this level of authority. All of this can be put together to show us that there are different planes of existence. At the very top plane, there is the divine realm. That's God's level of existence. Currently, only God the Father and Jesus Christ the Son occupy that realm. Then below the divine plane, there's the angelic realm. And then below the angelic realm is then the human realm. Humans are currently much less powerful than angels because we're mortal and physical. However, as many other scriptures show, we actually have the potential to be elevated above the angelic plane and enter the divine level of existence as God's very own spirit-born children. And now we come to the verse of focus, verse 14. After spending verse after verse writing about what the angels aren't and never will be, he very succinctly tells us what they are and why they were created. Hebrews 1 verse 14. Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation? So here we have a very important verse defining exactly why and for what purpose God created the angels. They are ministering spirits. Or we could simply reword this as spirits who serve, or spirit beings who were created to serve. The word minister in this context simply means to serve. So we see that the angels are spirit beings. They are composed of spirit, which makes them immortal and immensely powerful. And they were specifically designed and created to help God serve His creation, specifically human beings. Now, the Bible shows they perform a lot of functions on God's behalf, but one very important function this verse highlights is that they serve God's people, those called to inherit salvation. Yes, the people of God, those who compose the church of God, do receive special protection from the angelic beings. Sometimes their protection is very dramatic and noticeable, and many Christians have stories of being miraculously protected in ways that can only be explained through angelic intervention. And sometimes they help in ways completely unknown to us. But in whatever way they serve God and us, the point is that the righteous angels don't operate independently from God. They dutifully submit to Him and serve us. Sadly, that's not true of all the angels God created. At some point in prehistory, 1/3 of them rebelled against God and followed Lucifer, who became Satan. They no longer serve God and us, but instead do the exact opposite. They live in rebellion against God. They seek to oppose His plan at every turn and try to destroy human beings' chances of inheriting salvation. It's a tragic story that will have an unpleasant ending for those beings. However, this episode isn't about them, but the righteous angels who stayed faithful to God and continue to serve us. Though they should never be worshipped or given too much emphasis, we should be thankful for them and recognize their role in God's plan. The Bible even tells us that one day we will judge or rule over angels. But until that day, we can continue to pray to God that He will provide His protection through the righteous, faithful angels, those ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation.
Verse by Verse is a companion podcast to the Daily Bible Verse blog, which you can find on the Life, Hope, and Truth Learning Center. Check out the show notes for more.